Penetrating fire-rated walls requires careful consideration to maintain the integrity of the fire barrier. For low-voltage lines such as audio cables, several methods can be employed. Firstly, fire-resistant penetration systems can be installed. This involves using fire-rated sleeves, gaskets, or foam around the penetrating lines. These materials are designed to prevent the spread of fire and smoke through the opening. Secondly, firestop putty or caulk can be applied. This material seals the penetration, providing thermal insulation and preventing the passage of flames and smoke. Thirdly, metallic linings can be installed on both sides of the wall around the penetration. These linings act as a heat barrier, slowing the transfer of heat through the penetration. When it comes to penetrating fire-rated walls with power lines or extension cords, the requirements are much stricter due to the higher risk of fire. It is generally not allowed because power lines carry higher voltage and any damage to the insulation or connections could lead to an electrical fire. If it is absolutely necessary to penetrate a fire-rated wall with a power line, specific methods must be used. Firstly, a firestop collar with an intumescent overcoat can be installed. This collar is placed around the penetrating line, and the intumescent overcoat expands when exposed to heat, sealing the penetration and preventing fire spread. Secondly, a firestop plug can be inserted into the penetration. This plug is designed to block the passage of fire and smoke through the opening. Thirdly, a metallic liner can be installed on both sides of the wall around the penetration, acting as a heat barrier. Regardless of whether you are working with low voltage or power lines, there are some additional considerations. All penetrations must be properly sealed and inspected to ensure they meet the required fire resistance rating. It is crucial to consult with local building codes and fire safety regulations before proceeding with any penetrations. It is also highly recommended to use licensed and experienced contractors for fire-rated wall penetrations to ensure the integrity of the wall and the safety of the building. Let's delve deeper into the materials and techniques used for each method. Fire-resistant penetration systems such as sleeves and gaskets are typically made of intumescent materials. These materials expand when exposed to high temperatures, filling any gaps around the penetrating line and creating a fire-resistant seal. The sleeves are often split, allowing them to be easily installed around existing cables. The gaskets are typically made of a flexible, fire-resistant material that conforms to the shape of the cable, providing a tight seal. The foam is a fire-rated expanding foam that fills the void around the cable and hardens to create a fire-resistant barrier. Firestop putty and caulk are also intumescent materials that are applied to seal penetrations. They are easy to apply and can be used to fill irregular shaped openings. The putty is typically a pliable material that can be molded around the cable, while the caulk is applied with a caulking gun. Both materials expand when exposed to heat, creating a fire-resistant seal. Metallic linings are typically made of steel or aluminum and are installed on both sides of the wall around the penetration. They act as a heat sink, absorbing heat and slowing the transfer of heat through the wall. The linings are typically attached to the wall with screws or bolts. For power lines, the firestop collar with an intumescent overcoat is a more robust solution. The collar is typically made of steel and is designed to withstand high temperatures. The intumescent overcoat expands significantly when exposed to heat, creating a thick, fire-resistant barrier. The firestop plug is another option for sealing penetrations for power lines. These plugs are typically made of a fire-resistant material and are designed to fit snugly into the penetration. They block the passage of fire and smoke. When selecting a method for penetrating a fire-rated wall, it is important to consider the size and type of penetration, the fire resistance rating of the wall, and the local building codes. It is also important to choose materials that are compatible with the type of cable being used. Proper installation is critical to ensure that the penetration maintains the fire resistance rating of the wall. This includes ensuring that the penetration is properly sealed and that all materials are installed according to the manufacturer's instructions. Inspections are required to verify that the installation meets the required standards. A qualified inspector can identify any potential problems and ensure that the penetration is safe and effective. Building codes and fire safety regulations vary depending on the location, so it is essential to consult with local authorities before proceeding with any penetrations. These regulations specify the types of materials that are allowed, the required fire resistance rating, and the installation procedures that must be followed. Using licensed and experienced contractors for fire-rated wall penetrations is essential to ensure the work is done correctly and safely. These contractors have the knowledge, skills, and experience to properly install fire-resistant materials and to ensure that the penetration meets the required fire resistance rating. They also understand the local building codes and fire safety regulations. In summary, penetrating fire-rated walls requires careful planning and execution to maintain the integrity of the fire barrier. For low-voltage lines, fire-resistant penetration systems, firestop putty, and metallic linings can be used. For power lines, stricter methods such as firestop collars with intumescent overcoats and firestop plugs are necessary. Always consult with local building codes and fire safety regulations and use licensed and experienced contractors to ensure the safety of the building. Remember that the primary goal is to prevent the spread of fire and smoke, protecting the occupants and minimizing property damage. Careful attention to detail and adherence to best practices are essential for achieving this goal. Failing to properly seal penetrations can have serious consequences, including the rapid spread of fire and smoke, increased risk of injury or death, and significant property damage. Consider these additional points to further enhance your understanding. Firstly, the fire resistance rating of a wall is typically expressed in IRs, such as 1 IR, 2 IRs, or 4 IRs. This rating indicates the amount of time the wall can withstand a fire before it collapses or allows fire to spread through it. The penetration must be designed and installed to maintain the fire resistance rating of the wall. Secondly, the type of cable being used can also affect the choice of penetration method. For example, some cables are more resistant to fire than others. It is important to choose materials that are compatible with the type of cable being used and that can withstand the expected temperatures during a fire. Thirdly, the size of the penetration is also a factor to consider. Larger penetrations require more robust fire-resistant materials and installation methods. It is important to minimize the size of the penetration as much as possible to reduce the risk of fire spread. Furthermore, regular inspections and maintenance are essential to ensure that fire-rated wall penetrations remain effective over time. Fire-resistant materials can degrade over time due to exposure to moisture, temperature changes, and other environmental factors. It is important to inspect penetrations regularly for signs of damage or deterioration and to repair or replace any damaged materials as needed. Also, any changes to the building, such as adding new cables or modifying existing penetrations, must be done in accordance with the building codes and fire safety regulations. It is important to keep accurate records of all fire-rated wall penetrations, including the location, size, type of materials used, and date of installation. This information can be helpful for future inspections and maintenance. In conclusion, fire-rated wall penetrations are a critical aspect of fire safety in buildings. By understanding the principles and methods involved, and by following best practices, you can help to ensure that these penetrations are properly designed, installed, and maintained, protecting the occupants and minimizing property damage in the event of a fire. Always prioritize safety and consult with qualified professionals when working with fire-rated walls and penetrations.